We will not bow down. Let my people go. We will not bow down. Let my people go. We will not bow down. Let my people go. We will not bow down. Let my people go. We will not bow down.
Well, hello and welcome to episode 71 of the Croydon Constitutionalist podcast, bringing classical liberalism to South London and beyond via our YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. My name is Dan Heaton and my partner in podcasting today is Mike Swadling, the co-founder of the Croydon Constitutionalists. Mike, how are you doing?
Well, it's sunny in Blighty today, and it looks like we've got a good week's worth of weather. So despite the world, it puts a nice complexion on things. How about yourself, Dan?
Yeah, very much enjoying the weather at the moment. It's sometimes it's a shame to be stuck in an office, but at least the air conditioning is working very well in my office at the moment. So there's some small mercies. Well, we are delighted to be joined today by Graham Eardley, a spokesman for the Bruges Group. Graham, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Dan. I'm glad to be here.
So, Mike, there's been a few things happening over the past few weeks since our last podcast, to say the least. But what are we going to be talking about today?
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about Rwanda and the fateful flight as things stand today. We're going to be talking about the Northern Ireland Protocol and where that's going. And of course, we're going to be having a chat with Graham.
Excellent. So, yes, the government's much vaunted Rwanda plan, whereby asylum seekers who come across in dinghies from the unsafe country of France are to be put on flights to Rwanda for their claims to be processed whilst they're over there, rather than living in the UK. The first flight to take some people over there was supposed to be the other day, and following various legal battles, it did look as if at least about half a dozen people might be on that plane, so it wasn't going to be very full. But it was actually pulled at the last minute, thanks to our friends at the European Court of Human Rights. And Mike, what's been going on with this?
Well, as you say, there's obviously been a huge amount of legal wrangling about who gets to go on the flight, as there always is for deportation flights. It is the first flight of this kind, and from what we hear, the fact the government hasn't passed any primary legislation for this is kind of part of the problem specifically for this. But to me, it comes down to a few things here. I guess firstly, either you believe we have a right to control our borders or you don't. If we do, we've got to have a way. Part of that's got to be there's a mechanism for deporting people. If we do have that right to deport people, then there's a question of how that happens and who that happens is decided by the British government or by a foreign court. And of course, the politics of this very much goes two ways to me. One is in the short to medium term. Certain the parties of the left, shall we say, have decided that they are on the side of us either not having the right to control our borders, which is, I don't think where the majority of the British people are. I don't think that's where the Brexit vote left us. And they don't believe that the British government, the duly elected government, should decide who's deported or not. They think a foreign court should. And that's obviously not good for them in the short term. But I do wonder in the medium to longer term if this might be another failing by the Conservative government. And I just wonder, they're in charge, they've got a big majority. This week, the fact that we've had they've had a defeat, been rejected by the courts, might play well for them. I don't think they can get away with that too anymore.
Yeah, so I mean, the government no doubt and would have anticipated that there were going to be legal challenges to this, to the plan, and obviously on the individual cases. So they knew that this was going to be an issue, whether it be within the UK courts or ultimately within the European Court of Human Rights. They knew that there would be this battle. But yes, they're going to have to do something one way or the other. It's all right for a little while to say, oh, look, it's these bad judges. We're trying our best, but ultimately, you think they'd have to overcome it. Graham, what have you made of these recent developments?
Well, Dan, first of all, I think that the policy was bound for failure right from the start. There was no way the European Court of Human Rights were going to allow the flights to go ahead. Also, the United Nations would not allow it to go ahead as well, and they have criticised the UK government for allowing it to go ahead. There's a case that's going to be brought before the High Court in July, and once the High Court has adjudicated on that, I think we've got more likelihood of deporting people to Rwanda. But there again, these lefty lawyers, as they're called, are quite sharp on their human rights legislation, and I'm fearful that they will find other loopholes to stop the fights going ahead.
So, is there any way out of this for us? The government's perhaps talking about a UK Bill of Rights, but they're not talking at the moment about leaving the European Convention on Human Rights. Mike, do we need to press the button and get out of all this?
I think, to be fair, leaving the European Court of Human Rights and the Convention is a big step, and I'm not sure it should be taken in haste and over one issue. Now, that's not to say I don't think we should leave it. That's to say I think it does deserve a wider debate, and a UK Bill of Rights, as I understand it, could, for instance, be used to kind of constrain and make it operate in a way we want within the UK better. I wonder if specifically in this instance, and here we are talking partly about people that have come over across the sea, kind of by boat. I wonder if the answer might be that they never touched the shore in Britain. I can't help but feel we ought to have a defensive system that means no one can just sail a boat across the channel on land. We should be able to intercept it. That being the case, I don't know they ever have to touch the UK shores. They could be in the Channel Islands, they could be some other place before they are moved for processing overseas. That might seem harsh, but I think it might be one way around it. But whatever it is in the hands of a government with an 80-seat majority to deal with it. And if they don't deal with it, we've got the census due to come out at some point this year, I believe. We've got the immigration has kind of gone up over the last couple of years. A lot of people have moved into this country during a period of supposed lockdown. And we've got a government that could find a way within about 48 hours to constrain our rights for 2 years. But they can't seem to deal with something the British people have overwhelmingly asked for, which is a more controlled, smaller, net positive immigration. Now, that's going to cause some pain in the long term. Whatever the method, they've really got to get a grip on it.
So, Graham, what do you think? Should we be becoming a pariah state such as Canada, that's not a member of the European Convention on Human Rights? What should we do? Should we leave it?
What the lefties try and quote at us now is, I think there's 2 countries that aren't in the Council of Europe and therefore within the European Convention of Human Rights, one of them being Russia. So I would argue that we've got nothing to lose by coming out of it. In fact, we've got everything to gain because it's enshrined in the Brexit agreement that Boris Johnson signed that brought about the Northern Ireland Protocol, that we should be members of the European Court of Human Rights. So with that being enshrined, I mean, if we leave there, we also solve, I would argue, the Northern Ireland Protocol situation as well, and fishing rights.
Well, it was certainly an unusual, I would say, clause to have in that trade and cooperation agreement. the two things should not necessarily have to go hand in hand. The European Union has trade agreements with many, many countries that are not in Europe for a kickoff. So they're not the members of the European Convention of Human Rights. So it shouldn't really have been in that agreement, but as you say, it is. And whilst they may be completely, on the face of it, separate issues, they could indeed, drive a coach and horses through the original Brexit deal, and but could have some additional benefits, which we may talk about shortly.
I rather like Graham's idea of a buy one get one free on treaties. Leave this one, 3 others follow. That sounds good.
Exactly. Well, they were supposed to have a bonfire of regulations. We're constantly told that that's going to happen, but it doesn't seem to be any cut in red tape, does there?
No, there doesn't. And this bonfire of regulations, which the Conservative government has been always talking about, was talking about it at the 2019 election, seems to be taken off the table. Whether that's through having parliamentary time taken up by the pandemic, who knows? But I'd like to see them actually pull the fingers out on this one and get on and do it and cut as much regulation as possible.
Would certainly be a popular move. Well, we've talked briefly about the Northern Ireland Protocol and some sort of side aspects that may come from leaving the European Convention on Human Rights, but the very protocol is back in the news at the moment. At present, there is no executive in Stormont because the DUP are refusing to go back into Stormont, where admittedly the people in charge would be Sinn Féin. But yes, the Northern Ireland Protocol, it was there to avoid this concept of a hard border on the island of Ireland. Okay, but surely just a trade agreement could basically facilitate that. No, there had to be a special protocol for Northern Ireland, which means that many of the EU's regulations that no longer technically apply or have to apply to us on the British mainland do still have effect in Northern Ireland. And one of the main issues at the moment is over the checking of goods going from Great Britain to Northern Ireland, and that only for the Northern Ireland market. The EU should not really be interested in anything that's staying in Northern Ireland. They should only be interested in, if they really are that interested, in anything which may go into the precious single market by entering the Republic of Ireland through Northern Ireland. It's causing all kinds of issues, both economic and social. And the British government has finally, after much huffing and puffing, decided that it's going to issue a bill and an act of parliament, which is going to basically unilaterally change some of the aspects of the protocol. Graham, obviously a strong member of the Bruges Group. What's your thinking on this?
I don't think we should have signed the protocol in the first place. Boris Johnson spoke about no borders down the Irish Sea on numerous occasions. He even addressed the DUP conference, saying that he believes Northern Ireland's part of the United Kingdom. Jacob Rees-Mogg has spoken previously to being in government, saying, what has the EU got to lose over a few bottles of Guinness missing the taxes? And I say we ought to go and force the EU, if they want to have a border on the border between a land border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, go ahead and do it. There's over 300 crossing places, and in the Troubles, at the height of the Troubles, goods were still getting through despite all the customs posts that were on there. So I would say, go ahead, put your border up, make it a land border, and let's have no border in the Irish Sea between constituent parts of the United Kingdom.
Indeed, it was always a strange one from my perspective. If the only people who were ever talking about putting a border on the island of Ireland were the European Union, and it was always strange that we didn't just say to them, well, we're not going to do it. The Republic of Ireland are not going to do it. So it's not going to happen unless you're going to do it.
Well, what would happen is the European Union, that's why Simon Covey, who is the Irish foreign minister at the time of the negotiation, was in more or less what I say to be in panic mode, because the EU would say to the Republic of Ireland, say, yes, you must protect the single market. You will have to go and fund all the customs posts and the 300 odd crossing, well, it's more than 300 crossings between the Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. And you would have to go and maintain those crossing posts. And I don't think the Republic of Ireland would be too keen on doing that. And the amount of money that just maintaining those crossing posts those customs posts would cost.
No doubt. Well, Mike, what have you made of the proposals?
Picking up on something Graham said there, I'm reminded of something I heard at the time when this was first being negotiated, of a sort of Irish comedic folk group who done a song asking for a hard border to be put back in place because their family had made so much money out of smuggling over the years when the border was there. They want the opportunity to smuggle again. I thought it was a great idea. You know, you put a barrier up and someone will always find a way around it. I think we all know, and whether we want to be generous or not about it, and I'm inclined to less generosity these days, why the Northern Ireland Protocol came about. It was kind of anything to get Brexit across the line. But again, the government's been in place for a couple of years now, that they've had the opportunity to change this. They could quickly enough completely change the rules under which we all live by as citizens in a free country. They could quickly enough rank up taxes for us. They could get involved in foreign wars in the Ukraine, rightly so, I believe, but they could get involved in that. But they couldn't return the sovereign nation of the United Kingdom to be one whole market and unit just by simply invoking Article 16, something that's already in the protocol, and leaving it up to the EU to sort it out. I think that's unforgivable. They're now looking at this new law that gives them some options. It just feels like trying to create another issue to have a stick to beat the opposition with, another issue to play politics with, rather than actually fixing the problem. Invoke Article 16, get rid of the Northern Ireland Protocol, put the ball back in the EU's court to deal with it. And I think we all know we will have a much happier Britain. I think we'll actually have a much happier Island of Ireland because they will. No one's going to put a border up. We'll be in a much better place. But you know, what are the powers that be doing? Nothing useful that I can see.
No, well, notwithstanding these very small measures which are discussed in this bill, such as having sort of red and green lanes. So if your goods are going to stay in Northern Ireland, they don't get checked, but they do need to get checked, or they can potentially be checked if you're, you know, saying, oh no, I'm going to be selling some of these on to the Republic, or there's a danger, and we'll see what that means. But even those, the EU are talking about responding in kind in some other way. So we may be on for a little bit of a trade war. Seems a strange time to have a trade war when there's a real war in Eastern Europe, and the most of the economies in the developed world and elsewhere are suffering from huge, well, very high levels compared to what we've been used to for a very long time. Levels of inflation. Seems a strange thing to do, but it's not like the EU to cut off its nose to spite its face, is it?
The thing is here, we're not a vassal state. Our government needs to get its head around the fact we're not a vassal state. The EU thinks we are. If they want to have a trade war because we're deciding how we organise the internal market of the United Kingdom, fine, let them do that. They're not friends. They're not people we can do business with in any reasonable way. You know, we can respond in kind if need be. It is outrageous that any foreign country tells us how we have to organise our internal economy. And there should be no measure given whatsoever to answering the EU in wanting to do that. Yes, we had to get out of the EU. We had the Northern Ireland Protocol. We've done it once. But now you just say, do what you want. Do what you want. It's none of your business what we do inside our country. And we're not interested. And possibly, in good measure, start issuing a bunch of things, everything's wrong about their economies. Let's start recognising regions of Spain that want to break away if you want to have play games with them. But we should be giving no consideration. They tell us what to do within the UK.
So, Graham, should we be setting up an embassy in Barcelona?
Why not? I would say we've got to be very careful, though, because then we start and do that, then Scotland raises its, well, it already has raised its head through Mrs. Sturgeon. So then you sort of go to a zero-sum game. But no, we just say we're going to trade. We're all one country. People want us to be all one country. That is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And if, as I said previously, the EU wants to go and put up borders on land, let them go ahead. They will have to fund them as long as we don't reciprocate anyway by putting up border posts. Just let them put up their own border posts.
Indeed. Well, I'm sure it's a story that's going to rumble on for some time to come, unfortunately, but we will see. Well, Mike, I believe you've got some questions for Graham.
Yes. Hello, Graham, again, and thanks for doing this. So, first of all, just want to ask you, if you tell us a bit about your role within the Bruges Group, and perhaps for those that don't know the group so well, introduce the Bruges Group more generally.
Okay, I'll start with the last question first. The Bruges Group was founded in 1989 following Mrs. Thatcher's speech to the College of Bruges, the Bruges speech as it got known. It was founded by Lord Ralph Harris and one of his students at Oxford, Patrick Robinson, to look for alternatives to the European Union. The group, obviously, over the years since, has developed to become a true Eurosceptic, Euro-realist group and advocates and played a major part, I like to think, in Britain's leaving the bureaucratic union that is the EU. My role within the group is to be a spokesman on press, TV, as well as our director, Robert Olds, who is the main principal spokesman for the group. We're chaired by Barry Legg, who was the former chief executive of the Conservative Party under Michael Howard, and prior to that he was a Conservative MP for Milton Keynes. And that's what we're about, Mike.
So, for listeners that don't know, the Bruges Group had a series of leaflets during the referendum that I thought were really good, specialist leaflets for businesses, for different communities, and contributed to part of the reason I think we won, among many reasons, was that we had a whole host of different campaigning in a slightly different way, and the Bruges Group were very much part of that. So yes, a very big role they've played. So Graham, thinking about yourself more, what's your political background and how did you find yourself doing work for a think tank?
I started off, when I left school, I'd done some some sitting guilds. I then went to work at for the National Coal Board as a mining trainee. That would be in 1983. In 1984, certain areas of the coalfields had a strike instigated by Arthur Scargill, but not the Midlands area where I was working. So I didn't like the way that the left, through the National Union of Mine Workers, as I was a member of, sort of went against democracy, and that's always something that's nilled me. Time went on, career moved on. I went to Wolverhampton Polytechnic and I was a member of the National Union of Students. and they want to call us out on strike. And I'm thinking, why? What do I produce? You know, I'm a student. I don't produce anything that would have any real effect. It just seemed to be some leftist, I don't know, kick that they got out of causing all this trouble. And I think, no, I'm here to work. I'm not one of these people that want to withdraw my labour willy-nilly. And from there, I joined the Conservative Collegiate Forum, as it was in the student body for the Conservative Party. I found myself then joining my local association, being elected a councillor in Brownhills in Walsall, first ever Conservative to be elected. It was during that time I came across the Bruges Group. I think it was at a pamphlet that they gave out. I got more and more involved and went to the conferences. And then as time went on, I took on a greater and greater role. Went with the then campaign director, a chap called Jonathan Collett, to the Counter Summit in Nice, where along with Nigel Farage, and represented the UK at this Counter Summit in 2000 in Nice, where the main EC was then becoming the European Community was then becoming the EU, and the roles enveloped as more opportunities came along.
Excellent, thank you. And of course, along the way there, you've outside of your work for the Bruges Group, you stood for election a few times, and you mentioned there being a councillor.
Yeah.
They stood for election, obviously for the Conservatives, for UKIP and for Reform UK. Do you have any fun tales or experiences from the campaign trail?
The one I had, which springs to mind, is when I was standing for the Conservatives in Brownhills, and the Conservative slogan at the time was "Conservative councils cost you less, care for you more." And going along on the loudspeaker, I got the phraseology wrong, and I said Conservative councils cost you more, care for you less. I looked at the driver who was with me at the time. I said, "What do I do now, John?" He says, "Just say vote Labour and we'll scarp her."
Excellent, excellent. So, looking back to the Bruges Group, what are the group's big campaigns at the moment, and how can people find out more and maybe even get involved?
Right. Well, the best place to start is our website, which is www.brugesgroup.com, where you'll find details of all our past events, videos that we've done on Zoom, all our leaflets. The most recent publication was looking at environmental issues with Jeremy Nebel. And we've got an event planned coming up in the first week in October in Birmingham, which coincides with the Conservative Party conference. And we're taking over the Birmingham and Midlands Institute for a day with other think tanks, and we're going to get various speakers. Unfortunately, I can't confirm the names of anyone who's going to come along at this point until later on. But that will be a fun day on Monday, the 1st of October, if anyone's in the Birmingham area. And that's something I'm heavily involved with organising at the moment.
Oh, excellent, thank you. That sounds good. And if you send us details nearer the time, or once you've got more firm up, we will publish them out and let our listeners and followers know.
Great, will do.
Great stuff, and always good to speak to a fellow alumnus from the best university in the country, Wolverhampton.
Unfortunately, it was a polytechnic when I was there, Dan.
I know. So, Mike, what have we been up to, and what have we got on our website?
Yeah, so we've just recently had our No Passports Required third Wednesday drink. So thanks to all that turned up, and have a good night at the George. Our next drinks will be Wednesday, the 20th of July, again back at the George from 7 p.m. in Croydon. So Wednesday, the 20th of July, if you're free, come along. We've had a couple of items go up on the website. following recent events. I spoke at the Causal and Purley Debating Society and spoke in favour of the motion that it's time for the West to stand up to Putin and kick Russia out of the Ukraine. Now, very friendly society. It is a debate, so you sometimes pick a position and go with it. I've got my speech up online. It's fair to say I sort of said, by standing up to Russia and kicking them out of the Ukraine, we really carry on as we are. But it won the night, so that's the important thing. But also, it's worth having a read, I hope. I'd like to think. Gives a bit of detail of what's gone on and put some context around it, and certainly where my thoughts are. I'll just give you one quote from it that I enjoyed reading. Was in a line about misjudging a military interaction with the nuclear Soviet Union, as it was at the time. The good news was you only had 4 minutes to regret your mistake. So yeah, that's up there. If you're interested, have a read and send us your thoughts. Also, following the Jubilee celebrations, I've done a short article about having a national day. We're one of only 2 countries in the world that don't have a national day of celebration, and put up my thoughts on how we could do that, what we ought to be following, and I'm particularly keen on the British values as laid out in the national curriculum. They're pretty neutral, and they cover what I think most of our listeners would enjoy. So yeah, have a read, see what your thoughts are there. And again, if you're interested in a national day or not, drop us a line and let us know more.
Yes, well, if you'd like to write for our website or have any stories you'd like us to cover, please do contact us. You can do so via the Twitter at CroydonConst, via our Facebook page, via our website, croydonconstitutionalist.uk, or via email, croydonconstitutionalists@gmail.com. Well, do please subscribe to the podcast and the pubcast and the YouTube channel. Do please like, share, and leave a review. It's always good to get feedback, and it helps others to find the podcast. Thank you very much to Graham for joining us today. It's been excellent speaking with you.
Thank you very much, Dan and Michael.
And thank you to everybody for listening. Until next time, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
Stay free, everybody.